I guess homesteading isn't like what we saw on YouTube. Welcome back, horror fans. I'm Leo, and Bootube Breakdowns is here to save your scary movie night. Right off the bat, The Color Out of Space scores a 7.2 out of 10, which lands it in our Pumpkin King category. But here's the thing. I've already had to feed my daughter to a wife-son creature of nightmare just to get you the score, and in a few minutes, I'll show you exactly why this film earned its rating. If you disagree with my score at the end of the video, be sure to let me know how much you want to lose your sense of self while trying to communicate with an interdimensional underground alien. And then be sure to like, share, and subscribe about it in the comment section. After a lifetime of work in the city, Nathan and Teresa Gardner move out to rural Massachusetts to start a family farm and be away from the big city. Now, at first, it's all the growing pains of city dwellers moving to the woods to start an alpaca farm. There's poor Wi-Fi, small town gossip, and gardening, apparently. Side note, in the Lovecraft book, Nathan Gardner is actually Nahum Gardner, and Nahum is an anagram for human. Naming the farmer Human Gardener is why the Brits lost the revolution. Anyways, a meteorite falls onto the family farm, and an interdimensional entity that the human mind can simply perceive as a color out of space begins to spread and infect the land, turning the gardener's dreams into a living nightmare. Yes, Lovecraft is a genius and the godfather of cosmic horror. There, I paid my dues to the Cthulhu cultists. Now, for Richard Stanley's Color Out of Purple, we have an excellent story showing the complete destruction of a family from a sadistic interdimensional presence. Now, normally here's a being causing a family to become more aggressive and unhinged is a tired story. But where the plot is able to shine through is, surprisingly enough, through the side plot. We follow Ward Phillips, a hydrologist investigating what is essentially some weirdness in the water. Ward is used as a vessel to explain the entity and how it spreads, infects, and manipulates its environment. All of this while the gardeners are used to show how this entity manipulates biology, warps minds, and even rewrites space-time. It felt like nothing here was actually wasted, and the dynamics of each family member with each other was meticulously shown, and it shows how this entity can manipulate and warp all of the relationships from emotionally and mentally to downright physically. It's not perfect, but it's damn near it. I'm going to give the story quality here a 9 out of 10. It's a slow burn. And once again, I'm here to prove that slow burn is fine so long as you do it right. There's a lot of parallels I saw in this movie with other horror movies, especially the classics. That slow buildup of madness starting with absent-mindedness and escalating to violence is very reminiscent of The Shining, the Kubrick version. You know, the good one. Having the color spread from a small whistle to a hazy mist overtaking its environment was a fantastic way of building up the threat of this presence visually without having to descend into mindlessness and gore. Don't worry, there was plenty of that too. But with the side plot of Ward, we are treated with a side mystery thriller that is used to answer questions for the audience. But rather than just telling us the answers, for the most part, Ward is discovering the mysteries of this presence in real time. And therefore, we the audience are also going on an adventure with him. Sure, it's a little chaotic and rushed towards the end, and what ultimately happens with Ward's has problems of its own. But cosmic horror is hard to do, and being a slow burn makes it doubly so. It is not perfect, but it is masterfully executed. I'm going to give the pacing for this one a 7 out of 10. There were a ton of high-quality horror elements throughout the film. For starters, while the presence itself is constantly spreading and growing in its influence, the mechanism was kept sufficiently vague as to not make it a familiar fear. As best as I can tell, it spreads through water, and that's it. Creating time warps and manipulating behaviors is part and parcel for cosmic horror, but once we get to the body horror is where things really start to get good. We see a lot of inspiration from other horror classics like John Carpenter's The Thing sprinkled all throughout the film. But it fortunately never takes away from the fact that the color itself is the entity, and every other bit of horror sprinkled throughout this movie is a consequence of the color and not the entity itself. Now, I am a jaded horror fan, and the CGI was a bit off in some parts. I believe the movie would have been elevated with more practical effects and puppets than just lazy CGI. There's quite a few parts where it was obvious and it takes away from the experience. Still, not a bad movie, and for those sensitive to gore, there's plenty of body horror without completely overdoing it. I'm gonna give the fear factor here a 7 out of 10. I already mentioned some classics that this movie takes inspiration from, but the thing that shines through is the appreciation for Lovecraft's story. Unlike Incident in the Ghostland, link in the description, you could tell that Richard Stanley respected the source material and wasn't trying to be a snooty twat about using Lovecraft as a source of social commentary. As such, this came off as a major passion project with a strong cast. Nick Cage requires no introduction. Brendan Meyer and Madeline Arthur had amazing chemistry on screen and exactly what you expect sibling bickering to look like. Jolie Richardson was very well done as she was losing her mind from the color's influence. Julian Hilliard pretty much played the same kid as he did in The Haunting of Hill Manor, so while not a strong performance, it was good enough and served its purpose. And while Elliot Knight did not deliver an Oscar-worthy performance, he clearly took his role very seriously and delivered a strong performance for what was needed. By far, however, the best character was Tommy Chong. Nothing further needs to be said. The presence was ambiguous, the body horror was superb, the violence knew when to lean in and when to pull back, and best of all, the color stayed a horror beyond our comprehension throughout. Like I said, the CGI killed it for me on some parts, but overall it was a blast, even if a bit slow at first. I give the fun factor here an 8 out of 10. Per usual, the ending in movies like this are tricky, and although it wasn't a great ending, it was basically serviceable. The climax plays out with all hell breaking loose. The color completely consumes everyone from the farm and zombifies the entire Gardner family. Although Ward tries to at least save Lavinia after finding out about the color, he ultimately fails, and the entity just kind of blows up. We cut to Ward smoking a cigarette and throwing it into the water as if, I guess, being a way to hurt the color by polluting the water. Anyways, he acknowledges that it was just a color and it did all the damage and nobody remembers it now, but he does. The end. Yeah, I'm not buying it for 1 second that people just forgot all the crazy shit that happened. The color literally just kind of disappears, so I guess we have an unresolved ending. And also, Ward, like, what now, dude? You're a cosmic alien hunter now, or you're gonna go back to taking water samples? Either way, I don't believe it, and it is a bit of a shame that the ending is so mid, but at least it wasn't just bad. I'll give the ending here a middle of the road 5 out of 10. So that's Bootube Breakdowns' take on The Color Out of Space. Averaging our scores gives this movie a 7.2 out of 10, which places it in our Pumpkin King category. Do you agree with my rating? Scream your score in the comments and tell me what horror flick I should get next. If this helps save your spooky vibes, smash that like, share with your horror crew, hit that notification bell, and subscribe to Bootube Breakdowns for more killer verdicts. Keep it creepy, and I'll haunt you in the next review.